I wanted to come to Delhi just to express my thanks to so many people who were praying for me. Beautifully colored Indian food. I know some of you are like, oh, you're eating Indian food out of a bag. That's terrible. I know it's not the way my mother would have cooked it, but it was still pretty good. I think space exploration is really the gem that culminates a lot of technology and is a forcing function for technology. So I think it's one of those things that we can be most proud of. And also associated with it, that is the collaboration that we have with other countries. As we leave our planet, of course, it just comes natural that we want to leave as human beings, and we are obviously, in a lot of ways, a leader in space, but that means being an integrator in space. It's not being the one who has all of the ideas, but just being able to provide the opportunities and the foundation for amazing ideas to happen because of space travel. When I talk about space with kids, what's different is you have to think outside the box. The problems are not solved the same as they are here on Earth, and it really is like a spurring of technology because of people having to think a little bit differently. And that allows us also to be, like I mentioned, the cooperation. So I can only imagine where the next 250 years is going to lead us. I think the imagination is really the only limit. You know, I saw that and I thought, wow, that is really amazing. That is great. That is cool. But I would never be doing anything like that. And for me, my perspective as a child was more the fun shows that came out of that, right? Lost in Space or Star Trek. I'm a Trekkie, not a Star Wars guy, by the way. I don't know. I know this is always a controversy with a lot of people, but I'm a Trekkie and watched in the beginning when William Shatner, a long time ago. You can see there's some workout equipment up on the space station. On my first flight, I was lamenting a little bit because I had run the Houston Marathon and I qualified for the Boston Marathon, which is sort of the top jewel of marathons in the United States, and I really wanted to run it. And by the way, I heard the Mumbai Marathon was just this last weekend. Anybody run it? Probably because you think it's terrible, and marathons are terrible, and I agree with all of that. And so when I was lamenting a little bit about that, I was like, well, I could run it on the space station as a joke. To my sister, and she said, why don't you run it? And I said, why don't you take my number and you run it on the ground? And so we ended up both of us doing it. She ran it on the ground, and I ran it in space, strapped to the treadmill, which again was a little bit horrible. But again, something that I wanted to sort of emphasize a little bit about health. Even astronauts up in space are concerned about their health, and I wanted to project that to kids here on Earth. It's something that we should all be thinking about, not worried about, but thinking about on a daily basis, and providing a routine that helped me with time management and helped me go and do the things that I got to do later in life. Over time, as you're up there for a little while, you know where those places are, and then I was sort of quizzing myself. I would never look at the map. I would just go to the window and say, like, guess what continent this is, and I was getting better and better at it. I think that phase 3, though, was really looking at the planet as one planet. Our planet is alive. Some people think there's just rocks out there, but it's moving. I couldn't see those specific movements, but I could see the atmosphere. I could see the interaction. I could see the seasons. I could see the changes in the ocean colors with algae blooms, for example, or seeing ice formations in the high northern hemisphere or down near Antarctica. You can see all of this planet which is connected. And you think to yourself, of course, the air and the water are connected. And then you think to yourself, for me, it was like, oh my God, every person I know is there. Every animal, every plant, everything we know is there. And we're all on this one, they call it a little spaceship in our solar system. And, I think it changes your perception about us having any differences. On my first spacewalk, the one that gave me the most angst, I'll say, is the first thing was the box. I didn't get to talk about everything that we did. That's pretty easy. It's a couple nuts and bolts, boom, boom, undo it, put a new one in, put it up, put it back on there. The second task was, and that box was probably about this big. The second task was a piece of equipment about this big. It's a reflector to allow the Dragon spacecraft to interrogate and come and dock to the space station. Apparently there was some residue from one of the thrusters on top of those thrusters, so my task was to take a new reflector, take that one off, and put the new one on. Seems easy. 3 bolts, undo them, get it off, put the new one on. However, the place where that reflector was, my head was about 6 inches from the spacecraft that was going to bring us home. So already I don't have a spacecraft to bring us home because Starliner had a problem. Now my head is right next to the one that is supposed to bring us home, and if I bonk my head into it, I sort of wreck that spacecraft. So the whole time I'm working, I'm sort of tilting my head, because remember, when you're in the spacesuit, your head is much bigger because of not because of how good you are, but just because of your helmet is sitting on top of your head. So the whole time I'm leaning. First of all, just to get to that position, I had to take some extra time, because usually I hold on to some type of bar and I could move myself back and forth, but none of that was applicable for this situation. And then you're there and you're trying to work sort of underneath the edge of the spacecraft. And so the whole time I was sort of leaning like this, and I had such a cramp in my shoulder because I sort of had to lean back for about an hour and a half to be able to do this simple task. But not a hard task, but the consequences were so big. Is one of those things that just it's mentally tough to go through that and just continually tell yourself, don't rush, don't rush, don't rush. Everybody likes to get your work done fast and get it over with, get back inside of the spacecraft, but that one is probably the toughest. Thank you so much. Thank you. Like I mentioned when I first stood up here, it's really humbling to be here in India, and I really wanted to come here. I'm going to a book festival, literary festival, which is really important to me, but I wanted to come to Delhi just to express my thank yous to so many people who were praying for me and my crewmate, Butch Wilmore, to get back safely. And it's understated to say thank you, honestly, because I think my biggest impression, which I mentioned earlier today, is like, people are nice. People are good. And we forget that sometimes by the distractions of life, because we argue about, this or that, religion, politics, blah, blah, blah. But we're all people. And we care about each other. And that was like one of my biggest lessons learned. So thank you for bringing that up. And not Indian food only because it was sent to me. I was asking about it. I'm like, man, I wish I had some Indian food, because my prior missions I had Indian food. And lo and behold, one of the spacecraft came up with a couple boxes of beautifully colored Indian food. I know some of you are like, oh, you're eating Indian food out of a bag. That's terrible. I know it's not the way my mother would have cooked it, but it was still pretty good. And I got to share that with my friends, which was great. But what I did really crave was a good bread. My husband makes fresh bread. And so when I came back, and one of the things my father always ate as he was crossing the ocean on, I think it was the QE2, didn't know what to eat as a vegetarian, so he started to eat cheese. So when he came to America, one of his go-tos was grilled cheese, because he was like, I don't know what these Americans are eating. I think I'll just stick with my cheese. And so sort of as an ode to him, as well as I just love grilled cheese. With my husband's fresh bread, my first meal back was a grilled cheese. We do talk to a flight surgeon. Our flight surgeon, we're assigned a flight surgeon. We have a relationship with that person. So we talk to a flight surgeon once a week. We actually talk to a psychiatrist, psychological support every 2 weeks. And just to check in, and they can actually tell, apparently over time and trending, if there's something that's going on. And that way, at least you have someone to vent to and talk to. That's a little bit different than the people that you have to live with on a daily basis, right? And then I think another part of their task is to just sort of get a feel for what the astronauts are thinking. I could talk to my friends and my family. We could have video conferences, and that is really wonderful and convenient, and really makes life go by without feeling like you're missing everything on Earth. One thing I did miss is my dogs while I was up there, because I'm not really having a conversation with them. And lo and behold, somebody said, I know, I'm going to 3D print Sunny some copy of her dogs. And I opened up a package from one of these spacecraft that brought up my Indian food, and there out pops my 2 dogs floating. And what a neat little surprise, right? So people back on Earth are also thinking about folks back up in space.